Hi, everybody. It's Heather. Welcome to From the Minds of Raging Brats.
I'm Ashley. And let's get into what's been happening lately.
Holy shit.
I'm going to let my co-host take a little bit of this first one.
Teenagers getting felonies, running away from home, diabetic teenager running away from home with very little insulin left in their pump, phone turned off so they cannot be tracked, committing felonies. Just, I don't understand the youth of these days. I mean, even if I were allegedly to have committed felonies as a teenager, I was smart enough not to be doing the kind of dumb shit he was doing. And if I had
alone.
if I had a medical condition, I definitely would have been responsible enough to be like, oh, I'll die if I do this.
I'll be honest, I definitely was not that kind of responsible as a teenager because of what was going through my head as a teenager. I was like, oh, so all it takes is not putting this thing in my body to keep me alive? Cool. Like, I was that kind of teenager.
At times, but it was usually a triggered event.
Yes.
But for the most part, no, I was a mom when I was a teenager. And I was pretty good at keeping my kids alive. In fact, I was a little bit over the top quite a bit of times.
Oh, yeah, like my attitude as a teenager and the stuff I did as a teenager is why my son probably can't stand me at sometimes. I'm like, I know what that fucking look means, yeah. I know you ain't telling me out loud to fuck off, but I see it. And he's like, oh, cool, you get it then. And walks out. I'm like, okay, you're braver than I was with my mom.
Like, because they don't fear us.
No, because we're responsible parents that don't beat our children and put terror in them. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't condone that, but I'm like, fuck. None of the kids in the 80s did this shit.
No, I straight up told the officers that night, I said, I know I recently had this conversation about how spankings shouldn't be for little kids, that they should be reserved for teenagers, and that was just in theory. Yeah. I said, but after today, the day of the felonies, I was like, but after today, as we're walking with the officer looking at the crime scene and all of the shit that he's done with these other kids, and I'm just like, no, it's not in theory. Like, I need to reinvest in a freaking belt because apparently my dad was right, and the way to get through to a hard head is through a soft fucking ass.
Yeah. I definitely understand the feeling.
And my kid was just like, are you going to hit me? And I'm like, oh my God, right now I'm just so relieved that you're not fucking dead. But just know, for starters, you're grounded for at least the next month, minimum. No electronics, no friends, no. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Yesterday, he tells me, I said, hey, you got dishes to do. He goes, those are from the days I wasn't here that I was at Dad's. And I looked at him and I was like, and? He's like, remember, I don't have to do those when I'm not here. And I was like, that was before. I was like, you do remember that I told you that night that aside from being grounded, that you were going to be Dad and I's shadow, and that any little task that we felt was demeaning of us, you were going to be doing for the foreseeable future, because you apparently don't understand the lessons you've been given with leniency. So now the leniency is no longer available.
Yeah.
There's no room for mercy to help you understand that you cannot behave like this. Like, and the only remorse that he showed that whole night, which was what pissed everybody off even more. I mean, yes, he did. He was ultimately honest when he was forced, and when I was literally pulling up text messages in his phone and pictures showing the cops, like, He hated me. He was glaring me down. But the only time he showed any bit of remorse is when the officer told him that the building was owned by the National Guard, and then he just hung his head in shame.
Good. At least something made him feel remorseful. Like,
But before then, he was like, I'm not going to speak on that. I am not a snitch. Just, I'm going to. You just, whew, officer, I'm going to go sit back in my car again because I'm about to get loud again. I'm sorry.
and all I can remember is like I was that teenager. Like, again, I didn't go off and destroy buildings or anything, but there were times when my mom would look at the cops and be like, "You best take her somewhere. You best call another family member, take her to juvie, because if you leave her with me, we're both going somewhere. Me to jail, her to somewhere by the end of it." And she's like, "By the way, my kid thinks she's bad. She will haul off." And that's permission in my book. I don't care. She can meet me in the eyes and she wants to. We can get down and you can get in your car and leave. I'll call her to just actually get in the car. No, I think I want to be here. No, I don't want to arrest your mother. Please get in the car.
Yeah, I was a little bit of a handful as a teenager too. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had trauma and reason to feel the way I felt about life, but regardless of the reasons, the reality is the world doesn't give a fuck about your reasons.
Exactly. And as I've gotten older, like, my mom and I have been able to have some of the hard conversations that we honestly should have been having back then. And we've both apologized. Like, there's times, like, even when I'm not living near my mom, I just randomly text her and I'm like, "Hey, I'm sorry." She's like, "What the fuck did you do now?" And I'm like, no, nothing new. Nothing new. But all the shit I
just
did
retroactively.
do, like, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I've been having more connection with my oldest son lately, and it's been kind of a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I just, with this stuff with Bear, I am so overwhelmed all the time. Because, like, the sad part is when he has no outside influence, like when I don't let him basically have any friends, he doesn't even think of this kind of stuff. He just is chill. I mean, yeah, he gets mouthy as fuck because that's who he is. But, like, the worst things he does is play his violent video games, which I don't really give a shit about.
No.
But if he has any outside influence at all, they're always the troublemakers that
Well, it's like
find him.
Like Lakota recently told me, the only reason he has any interest in going to school is because he wants to see his friends. But I now know, because of his teachers and everything, Lakota's taken on a whole new persona at school. At school, he's the kid that never smiles, and he's angry, and he's sad, and all he wants to do is listen to, like, angry, violent, emo music, which, you know, he doesn't like it when I listen to violent music. Like, you've heard him be like, "Mom." And, like, he's all into, like, the dark, like, stuff at home. Like, my kid that teaches me how to grow plants properly and has helped me take care of bugs because he didn't want them to be cold outside, and now tells me, "Hey, that's not okay. That was rude what you said. Like, we're not like that." He's starting to correct me on it, but you're telling me then he goes to school and he acts like that. And I recently told him, I was like, the funny thing is I am goth when I have the money and the time to fix myself. I was like, but the thing is everybody forgets the kid who is pretending to be something. the kid that's their genuine self, no matter what that is the one that still has their friends later on in life. I was like, ask me how I know. I have 2 friends. And I was like, because I had to pretend to be a lot more violent, a lot harder than I was at a younger age, so people wouldn't fuck with me. And because of that, I think I got into even more fights, actually, and stuff. Because the people that did want to fuck with me, they wanted to see how I could fight. They wanted to throw down. Like, they were
They wanted
not
to see
friends.
how far they could push you.
Yeah. And I was like, but also because of that, I don't have any like real connections from like high school and stuff. I was like, I wish I would have been more genuine. So maybe I could have made more genuine connections. And he just looks at me, he's like, you did that? I was like, yeah. And it fucked with me really bad. Because I wanted to be the person that I was pretending to be so bad just because I didn't want to get hurt.
I was more of I had true, genuine friends, but I always eventually cut everybody off because I always felt like somebody was going to leave me anyways, so I wanted to be the one leaving.
Yeah, I did that a lot too. Like, and even now as an adult, I struggle with, well, you know, I am very much somebody that could just not talk to somebody for weeks. Nobody. And be perfectly content. And I forget almost that people need to like reach out, but then also, unless you're really, really, really important to me, I never reach out, period, about anything because I'm like, I'm probably just annoying them. Well, they probably don't even really want to be my friend. Like, they're just gonna get annoyed and like stop fucking with me soon anyway. So why would I? And I know that's the people. I know, and I'm trying to correct the thinking actively now, but it's difficult, especially I feel like when you're a mom and you're trying to teach your kid positive mental health stuff while your own mental health is trying to like convince you everybody's against you.
Oh,
very difficult. Like,
I know.
Like, Coda, like, he asked me the other day, he's like, why do you check the locks when we go to bed like 20 times? I'm like, it's not that many. He's like, it was 23 last night. I was like, because I know ways to get into people's houses, even with their locks. So it's my thing. Like, the windows are secure, the doors are secure. I've done everything I can to keep this house safe. And now I can go to bed. And if I hear anything breaking, then it's something different. That, and I didn't tell him this part, but when I was really young, like 8 or 9 years old, I watched a serial killer documentary with my uncle about BTK. And BTK had said at one point, if I go up to a woman's house and all the doors are locked and all the windows are locked, she doesn't want me in her house, and I understand that. But if I go up there and one of the doors is unlocked or I can get in the window, well, that's her fault. And ever since then, I was like, okay, psycho, okay, just lock everything. That's one deterrent. Got it.
I'd have been murdered.
That's what a bunch of, like, when I moved out to Glendale with Randy at the time, I was like, what do you mean you don't lock your doors? What do you mean you leave the back door open at night to get a breeze? I was like, she's like, where do you think we are? I was like, the world. We are outside people. Like, and she's like, there's like 700 people here, Max, Ashley. We live in a park. People are going to hear, like, it's going to be okay. I was like, and she's like, plus we have 3 big ass pit bulls. And I was like, I'm just going to put a lock in. It's going to be great. It's going to be fine. And then Richard moved in and she's like, oh yeah, we have to have locks again. And I'm like, I go.
Well, when I first moved in here, I had that recliner And it was really the only piece of furniture that I had in the house set up.
Yeah.
And Bear was going to James's, so when they left, they went out and didn't close my door. And I didn't realize that because I was already asleep in that recliner, which had its back to the door at the time. It was,
Yeah.
And so I wake up at like 8 o'clock the next morning and stand up to go to the bathroom, and my door's wide open. Just all my me right there. I'm like, I wasn't even difficult for a serial killer to kill me. Like,
Right,
I
that
was like
would've been
served
boring.
up on a fucking platter.
At that point, it's just boring. They walk in, they're like, "No, let me help you." And then locks your doors for you.
They're like, this bitch was so tired she didn't even make it past the chair. God damn.
No, she did it. Just leave her.
Okay, well, I hope our audio is still good. Anyways, fun fact that when I was working on the illicit side of the law,